The Okay. Okay. So in the last class, we were talking about Ganache. So just to like quickly touch upon what we had studied in the previous class. So we were talking about that previously we have been using Remix to develop our smart contracts and deploy our smart contracts. Now what we need is we need to have a certain kind of more functionality that we need if we are executing our smart contracts. So with like when you're executing something on Remix, you get a UI panel on the left, and that will show you in the form of buttons that okay, you are deploying your smart contract, you can put values, you can check your smart contract, but it does not give you a very good interface for seeing that okay, this transaction was executed, this amount got deducted, or this amount was like credited into your Ethereum account or Ethereum address. So to overcome the disadvantages that were associated with Remix, we started talking about Ganache. So, Ganache is part of a Trueful framework. So, Trueful is a framework for building, testing, and deploying applications on the Ethereum network, and it provides you with a set of frameworks. Okay. So there are many framework available there. One is Truffle, then there is Ganache, Drizzle, etc. But what we are doing is we are going to use Ganache to see how we can overcome the disadvantages that were associated with Remix and see a more visual appearance of the execution of smart contracts. So previously we were talking about how Ganache can be used. So we were talking about certain steps associated with execution of Ganache and how instead of using Ethereum, we will be using Ganache and a wallet, a client wallet, to execute a smart contract. So what we are doing is that previously we were using a Remix IDE. We were using a Remix IDE. Now what we are doing is instead of just using the Remix IDE, we will be using Ganache and a client application. Why do we need a client application? The reason we need it because you want to see all information associated with your Ethereum account. That is what Ethereum addresses are present, how much, like how many transactions you did, what was the amount that was transferred, what was the amount that was debited. All that kind of information is done using a client application, and the client application is nothing but a wallet. So in our case, we'll be using a wallet which is known as the MyEther wallet. Okay. So we'll be using a wallet which is known as the MyEther wallet, and we will be also using Remix for writing smart contracts. So this part we're already familiar with how we write smart contracts on Remix. We will see how you use Ganache and a wallet to have a more visual appeal when you write and execute your smart contracts. So coming back to the slides here, we were saying that in order to like use Ganache, you can download Ganache from the URL which is truffleframework.com/Ganache, and it allows you both the options depending upon your operating system. You can download it for Mac, you can download it for Windows also. Then you have to just select a framework. You can either create a new workspace if you are implementing a lot of smart contracts, or you can just quickly jump to quick start and it will give you an Ethereum account with a number of Ethereum addresses. So here, if you like click on quick start, it will give you an account which will have a list of Ethereum addresses. Now by default, each of these Ethereum addresses have a balance of 100 Ether. We can change these values. We'll see how we do that. Transaction count is 0 because using this address, we haven't performed any transaction. Index number will give you the number of addresses that you have. The first address here has an index of 0. The second address here has an index of 1. The third address here has an index of 2. So indexing will start from 0. And every address, if you look at this here, every address has a private key. Now, this symbol indicates a private key. So, if you recall, when we were talking about remix, in remix we were automatically remix was taking care of how our transactions are signed. Here when we run Ganache, we will see how we are using a private key associated with an Ethereum public address to sign a transaction, to execute a transaction, and how those uh, values like the transaction count, the index, all of this, the balance will be available to us. So if you recall in Ethereum, in Remix, we were simply writing the smart contracts, we were compiling them, either it was like we were compiling them or they were auto compiled, and then we were deploying our smart contract, which used to give us a button. So if we go to Remix over here, so if we go to Remix over here, we already have a smart contract here, which will allow us to invest some Ether and then check the balance after we have invested some amount. So we remember that it allowed us to deploy the smart contracts, and here we can see that one transaction is recorded and the smart contract, like the deployed smart contract, is shown here. It will allow us to check the balance. If you invest something, you can invest a value, and then it will give you the, this is not okay. So I have deployed a smart contract. We have 7 deployed smart contracts. If you balance of is 0, you should be able to invest. Okay. Okay. 1 second. So if I deploy, I give a value here as 40, 400, and I deploy this. Okay. So this is now my deployed smart contract, and some reason, okay, yes. So you have to give the value over here, and you can say invest, and when you check the balance, it will give you the updated balance over here. So here you are setting the value, you are giving the value, suppose you give the value of 60, you click on invest. Previously the value is 800, if you click the balance of now, it will give you 860. So in a sense, it is providing you with a, you can say a UI for interacting with your smart contract, but you are not signing your transactions using your private key. If this value here is present, it will not show you from which address the value is being transferred or to which address the value or this Ether amount has been received. So it gives you very limited functionality when it comes to your smart contract. It is just allowing you to have two buttons to invest and to check the balance. So this is what we are doing here in the smart contract. We are having just two functions here, invest and balance off, and we have buttons for that. But when we are talking about Ethereum, we are saying that whenever you want to initiate a transaction, you sign the transaction, and to sign it, you are using a private key. And when you sign and like execute a transaction, that amount should be reflected in your Ethereum address. So here you are doing this, you the amount gets reflected here, but it does not have a very good like an interface for viewing which address sent you some Ether or to which address you are sending some Ether. So we can improve that with Ganache over here. So you run, when you open Ganache, you will get some addresses over here with balance, transaction count, and indexing. You can change here, you have an icon which using which you can set your server port, network ID. We have already discussed this in the last class. We will keep these values as default and will not change them. Then you can have account and keys. Account and keys means how many accounts can you have and what will be the default balance of each account. Meaning that here you can see the default balance has been given as 100 here. But you can, depending upon your requirement, change this. And the number of accounts here is 100, meaning that you will have 100 Ethereum addresses available to you. This you can also change. So this is the overview of the Ganache framework. Next, we'll be talking about the client application, which is the MyEther wallet. So MyEther wallet has two kinds of frameworks. One is the original version, which is actually being used to transfer ether from one account to another to manage your account. That is, it is kind of a main ether wallet. But if you want to use it for testing and development purposes, they also have a wallet, and you can use this wallet using this link here from the GitHub. So they have two varieties of wallet. One that will work on the mainnet, which is the MyEther wallet, and one that you can use for testing purposes, for like when you are executing your smart contracts, when you are like learning how to like use smart contracts, learning how to use the Ether wallet. So then you can use this version of the MyEther wallet. So now what we have to do is, when you open the MyEther wallet, you can connect your Ganache to your MyEther wallet. So how do we do that? When you open MyEther wallet, something like this will appear on your screen. You go to the networks and add the custom network. Now, as soon as you click on the custom network, what will happen is you will get a page over here, and here you will give the node name. The node name will be any name that you will want to give. The URL, now this URL is the same that is present in the Ganache. So if you look over here, Ganache framework has an RPC server. It says HTTP 127.0.0.1, and then it has a port number. This same you will be entering here in the MyEther wallet, the URL and the port number, and then you'll click on save. Now, as soon as you click on save, you have connected your Ether wallet to Ganache. Now you can start deploying your smart contracts. So in this MyEther wallet framework, you go to contracts, and you can click on deploy smart contract. It says deploy smart contract. Now what you have to do is, here it says bytecode. You have to put the bytecode here. You have to put the gas limit. Now, how do you get the bytecode of the smart contract? To get the bytecode of the smart contract, you come back to this remix environment. So here you have the remix environment. If I click on this here, the Solidity compiler, here you can see it gives you two options, the ABI file and the bytecode. So this bytecode is for the Solidity program mycontract.sol. So you can copy this bytecode here, and you can paste the bytecode over here, give the gas limit, and execute your smart contract. Now, when you want to execute your smart contract, so here we have the option, you compile, you get the ABI, you get the bytecode, you copy the bytecode from here, and you paste it. Next, what will happen is, when you click OK, it will ask you for the private key. Now, to get the private key, you will go to Ganache, click on this key, you will get a private key over here. You will copy this key, paste it over here, unlock your balance, whatever 100 Ether you have, and you will execute your contract. Any questions, anyone? So this may look very complicated. What we'll do is after we go through these PPTs, I will like show you how this is done using Ganache, MyEther wallet and Remix. So it will make it very easy. So what you are doing here is that you are pasting the bytecode from Remix. Gas limit will automatically be calculated. You can also give your own gas limit. You will paste your private key from Ganache. You will unlock your amount, which is say 100 Ether, 200 whatever in your account. Ask your which you are doing on Remix. So if you transfer some amount from one account to another, that will now get reflected here on your Ganache because you're using your Ether wallet to spend some money. But this will get reflected here that, okay, this address has sent zero point zero 0.01 Ether and the transaction account amount, like this transaction count also gets increased by 1. So this is how you use Ganache with MyEther wallet and also use Remix to execute your smart contracts. So we'll see how this is done. Okay, so I will share my entire screen here. So we are saying that we have certain steps for interacting with the smart contract using Ganache. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to open Ganache. So in order to open Ganache, here I have Ganache installed on my computer. If you don't have Ganache installed on your computer, what you can simply do is you can go to Shuffle Suite at Ganache. So if you click on Truffle Suite, it will give you the options. Now, since this is a MacBook, it automatically gives me the option to download for macOS. If you are using a Windows operating system, you will like get an option here to download Ganache for a Windows operating system. So you will simply click on download and it will download Ganache on your computer system. Now what we will do is, now I will open this Ganache. Now here I have the first screen. When I open Ganache, it will give me the version number, that is version 2.5.4, and then it will give me two options. Either I can click quick start and quickly start using Ganache, or I can create a workspace. Now workspace is like if you are implementing a series of smart contracts to like implement a distributed application or anything like that, then you can click on a new workspace. However, we are just seeing how a smart contract is deployed using Ganache, MyEther, and Remix. I'll click on Quick Start. So as soon as I click on Quick Start, this window appears on my screen. So it gives me the account, the blocks, the transactions, contracts, events, logs. These are the options that are available with me. Now, if you look at this here, it gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 Ethereum public addresses are present in my account, and the balance in each of these is 70 Ether. The balance in each of these is 70 Ether. The transaction count is 0 for all of them because no transactions have been done yet, because we have just opened this Ganache framework. So if this is your public address over here, the balance is this, the transaction count is 0. Now the reason for having the transaction count of 0 is because using this Ethereum address, we haven't performed any transaction. And here we have the index number, which gives us the like it is kind of a counter for the number of Ethereum addresses that you have. So this is your first Ethereum address this here. So it has an index of 0. This is your second Ethereum address, has an index of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And each of these Ethereum addresses, if you can see here, has a key associated with it. So it will say this account address is this. And this is the private key associated with this address. And this private key, you cannot use it on a public blockchain. It is only to be used for development purposes. So I have 6 addresses. Each of those addresses has some balance and an index, and each of this will have its own private key. This will have its own private key. Every account address will have its private key. Now, if I click on these settings over here, this extreme right, this settings icon, if I click on this and I go on account and keys, so here I can change the number of Ethereum addresses that I have. I can change the starting balance of the account, and I can also lock accounts or unlock accounts. So if I say the account balance should be 150 Ether in each account, and the total number of accounts that I want should be 4. I will click on save and restart. If you look at this here now I have 4 Ethereum addresses, Ethereum address 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the balance for each of these is 150 because I changed it in the account and keys. The index is 0, 1, 2, 3, and the transaction count is still 0. The reason for having the transaction count as 0 is because for each of these addresses is because we haven't performed any transaction till now. So we have now 4 Ethereum addresses, 150 Ether as the balance in each of these addresses. The transaction count for each of these addresses is 0, and we have the index as 0, 1, 2, 3, and each of these addresses has its own private key. Now again, if I click on this settings icon on the extreme left, on the extreme right, it gives me this server address. So this is the host name. So it will accept an RPC connection with on the following host and port. So there are several values here, but we'll leave it at default. This is the port number and this is the network ID. Then we have an option for automine in order to process transactions instantaneously. And then we have error on transaction failure. We also have a chain forking option. What this will allow us to do is it will allow us to split our existing chain to create a new chain. Okay. So we know that whenever there is you can say a conflict, then to resolve that, our blockchain is split. So Ethereum has also been split into 2 blockchains. We have 2 blockchains for Ethereum, which is the Ethereum Classic and the Ethereum. So we have forking on Ethereum also. The forking created 2 blockchain. One was the original blockchain, which was Ethereum, and then we had another blockchain which is known as the Ethereum Classic. And Ethereum Classic emerged after there happened a fork on Ethereum. So these are the options available with us. Here you can also change the values, but for now we'll leave it at default. The host name, the port number, the network ID. You have auto mine and error on transaction failure option available. That is, if some error occurs, if a transaction fails, you will throw an error and tell which kind of error has occurred on our system. So this is the main screen over here, and here we have all these value here. That is, mining status is auto mine, workspace is quick start. Here you have the RPC server value, your network ID, and you have hard fork. We'll see what this means later. The gas limit, the gas price, and currently we haven't created any block, so this current block value is 0. So this is all we need to know with respect to our Ganache framework. Next, what we need to do is we need to connect our Ganache with the client application, which in our case is the wallet, and we are using the MyEther wallet. So to access the MyEther wallet, you can simply use this link present over here to access the wallet. We are not using this version because this is not a test version. This is an actual live wallet where you have to have some ether associated with your account. But since we do not have actual ethers with us, we are only testing our smart contracts. We'll be using this test version. So here on GitHub, we have this MyEther wallet, and there are several releases. The wallet that we are using, the version is version 3.21.13. So you can simply download this wallet from GitHub, and once you download this wallet, I have the wallet already downloaded. So here is the Ether wallet, and if I click on index.html, this so as soon as I click on index.html, my Ether wallet is, where did the wallet go? Yes, here. So as soon as I clicked on index.html, this screen opened in front of me. So this is the test wallet. Here you will not lose your money. This is also kind of an isolated environment, but this is better than what we had with Remix, is because here you can actually use your private keys to sign your transaction, to send your transactions, and then you can use Ganache to see how the amount gets updated when you execute a transaction. So now, one second, please. Okay. So this is your Ganache here, and this is your MyEther wallet. We have already seen what options are available with us in the MyEther, in the Ganache framework, and let us see what MyEther wallet is. So MyEther wallet is a kind of a test wallet which you can use to deploy your smart contract to send money from one account to another. Now, let us see how we can connect our MyEther wallet to the Ganache framework. So if you look at this option here on the top right corner here, it says my network is my node Ether. So this is some custom network that is present over here. What we need to do is we need to connect our MyEther wallet with the Ganache framework. So we will come here to the last option which says add custom network. So this is add custom network over here. If you click on this add custom network, it says you can set up your custom node over here. So I can say that this is my test smart contract. Okay. Then it says that I need to provide the URL and the port number. Now to provide the URL and the port number, I will go back to this Ganache here, and the URL that I'll provide is this URL, the RPC server URL, which is http colon double forward slash 127.0.0.1, and I will simply paste it over here. So this is the URL, and next I want to have the port number. So the port number is here 7545. So I'll also copy this and paste the port number over here. So if I click on save and use custom node, you will see here in this pink bottom here, it says you are successful. And I have what this means is that I have connected my Ether wallet to this Ganache framework. So I have connected the Ether wallet to this Ganache framework over here. Okay. So now we know what Ganache framework is. We have a Ether wallet over here, which is like a client application which allows us to access our Ethereum, transfer our Ethereum, receive Ethereum, all those sort of functions. Okay. So now the goal here was to see how Ganache and Ethereum are an updation with respect to Remix. How Remix, Ganache, and MyEther wallet differ from each other. That is what facilities, what upgradations you get if you start using the Ganache and MyEther wallet instead of just executing everything on Remix. So now this fifth option here is contracts. We have an option over here which is contracts, and if I click on this option here, it says interact with a contract or deploy a contract. So it allows me to either deploy my contract over here, or I can also interact with my contract here. So it asks for an ABI or JSON file. Now, how do we get this ABI or JSON file? Now, to get this ABI or JSON file, we'll have to go back to where we have written our smart contract. So where do we have our smart contract? Okay. Uh, here. Here on Remix, we have our smart contract written, that is invest and balance of smart contract. And if you look at the bottom over here, it has the ABI file here and the bytecode also. Now it says, if you look at this here, it says that it wants the ABI or JSON interface. We have the ABI here, so we will simply copy it. We have copied the ABI file from Remix and we are pasting it here on MyEther wallet. So if you look at this, this is also a kind of a JSON file. The reason we are calling it a JSON file is because you have key values pair. You have a key and you have a value. And this goes for everything that is present inside your smart contract. Everything is in the form of key value, which is why we are calling it a JSON interface. Now this, we have pasted the ABI over here and it says it wants the contract address. That is which address is executing this smart contract. So we have to get this, again we will get this from Remix. So here if you see, this is the address that we are using for execution of smart contract. By default, this address was present for the execution of smart contract. So we will simply copy this value from here, value copied to clipboard, and we will paste it over here. So now we have the contract address and we have the ABI or the JSON file with us. Now if I click on this access, it shows me the contract that is executing this. The same contract is present over here, and it will give me the two functions, balance of and invest. So if I click on invest, okay. So if I click on invest here, it will not simply allow me to update the value. If you look at this here, it will not simply allow me to update the value. It is asking me, how would you like to access your wallet? In Remix, we did not have any such functionality like that. If you were investing something, it simply allowed you to invest. But here, what the MyEther wallet does is, it is asking, do you have a MetaMask? Do you have a Ledger wallet? So all of these are types of wallet. You also can have a Keystone file here. But what we will be using is, we will be using a private key. The reason we are using these private keys because we have Ethereum addresses here on Ganache and we also have a private key. So if I click on this and I copy this from here, I have copied this and I paste the private key over here. So I wanted to invest something. using my wallet, but it says that in order to invest, you need to access your wallet, and these are the methods in which by which you can access your wallet. So I do not have any of these, but I have a private key. So I am using this private key to unlock my balance. Which balance am I trying to unlock? I am unlocking this 150 ether that is present in this address with the private key. Now, if I click on unlock, it will unlock the values. Now, if I write, it says, warning, you are about to execute a function on contract. And now if I want to send some amount, if I say I want to send 40 ether using the smart contract. Okay. Why the smart contract? Because a smart contract allows us to invest something and also to check the balance. Now the question here is, we are investing an amount. Where does this amount come from? I'm saying I will be investing 40 ether. Now, how do I get those 40 ether? The 40 ether that I will be investing is from here. I have a balance of 150 ether. Out of this 150 ether, I will be investing 40 ether using this smart contract. So if you look at this over here, this is the amount to send or the amount to invest, and the gas limit has been automatically calculated. So 40 I'm spending, gas limit has been set. If I click on generate transaction, it will give me the raw transaction, the nonce, the gas price, the gas limit. Two is this address. And from, okay, 2 is this address here. And from some reason, I think from is not present over here as a value. Here we have a value, we have data, we have the chain ID. Chain ID is 1 because this is our first transaction. So all of these values are present. And once you sign the transaction, you can see that this becomes a hexadecimal transaction. You cannot read this transaction. Signed transaction means that you have used your private key to sign the transaction, and using the SHA 256, it has been converted into hexadecimal value. Even till here, you get this option that you want to make a transaction or you can get out of here. So I want to spend 40 ether. This is my raw transaction with all the values that should be present inside the transaction, the data, the value, chain ID, gas limit, gas price, nonce, etc. And I'm saying, yes, I am sure to make a transaction. I click on yes. Your transaction has been broadcasted to the network. Now, if I come to Ganache over here, you can see that my balance has been updated, because using this address, using my private key, I unlocked the funds from this address and I spent 40 ether out of it. I spent 40 ether out of it. Okay. And if you look at this here, the transaction count has also increased from 1 to from 0, it has become 1. The reason it has become 1 is because we have executed a transaction. Now, if I want to invest again, I say invest and I click on write. And I want to invest, say, you can say I want to invest 8 ether. Again, I can generate a transaction, say I am sure, and instead of 110, I just have 102 because I have spent 8 ether using the smart contract. And the transaction count now becomes 2. We can only invest here in this case because our smart contract only allows us to check the balance or to invest some value. You can also implement smart contracts which allows you to receive some funds. Okay, so you can use another address which is transferring some funds, another address that is receiving some funds. So this is how you make use of Ganache, your MyEther wallet, and Remix to execute your smart contracts. So instead of having just Remix doing all the functionality for you, you can distribute the functionality on Remix, some on Ganache, and some on MyEther wallet. So this is how you work with you can say a more interactive version of Remix. That is not using Remix to do everything, but distributing the tasks depending on what can be executed on what. So this is how okay, there is a question that why we use the private key from Ganache and address from Remix. So first, what we are doing is we have a smart contract, right? Smart contract is getting executed on some address. Okay. So to access the smart contract, you need the address. Next, to invest the value, you need to have your private key to unlock your funds to transfer the value. This is why we are using the private key of the address that is pending the Ether. But in order to access the smart contract, we need the address where the smart contract is present. So this is all about Ganache Ganache MyEther wallet and Remix. So this is not anything new. You know how to write contracts in Solidity, but instead of executing everything on Remix, what you're doing is you're just distributing the functionality, some on Remix, some on your Ganache, and some on your MyEther wallet. Okay, so this is all about your Solidity smart contract execution on your Truffle framework, and of this Truffle framework, we are using Ganache here. Next, we'll talk a bit about what are the private and public networks, what are their advantages and disadvantages, and then we'll talk about the use cases of Ethereum, what is the future value of Ethereum, and like what are the like future potential associated with your Ethereum smart contracts, or rather Ethereum in itself. So now we'll talk about, and just let me share my tab. So we'll come back to the presentation over here, and we'll talk a bit about the public and private blockchains. So we all know what the difference between a public blockchain and a private blockchain is. So a public blockchain network is a blockchain network where anybody can join whenever they want. So a public blockchain network is an open network. Your Ethereum network, your Bitcoin network, all of them are public blockchain networks. Can anybody tell me a name of a private blockchain network? If anybody has any idea? Okay. So we have talked about two blockchain in depth. One is Ethereum and one is Bitcoin. So both of these are public blockchain networks. There is one another very popular blockchain network which is known as the Hyperledger Fabric or the Hyperledger framework. So this Hyperledger framework is a private blockchain network. Now, private blockchain network means that you are your audience becomes very different as soon as you divide your blockchain networks into public and private. Public network will mean that anybody can access your blockchain. You can download the Bitcoin software, download the Ethereum nodes, and you can start contributing to the network, start accessing the network. But with a private blockchain, you have a very different audience. You're not making a software, a blockchain that is can be used by general public. Private blockchains are mostly used for enterprises, for organizations, for institutions. Okay. So all the private blockchains are closed blockchains. You cannot just simply access and be part of the network. You cannot do that. In order to access a private blockchain, you have to be part of an enterprise that is using the blockchain. So Hyperledger Fabric is a kind of a private blockchain, and it has developed itself in such a manner that it will be used mostly by enterprises like Google, Amazon, IBM, Morgan Stanley, all these kind of enterprises. If they want to like explore or test blockchains, they can develop a private blockchain using the Hyperledger Fabric. But whatever blockchains we have studied till now, we have basically focused on public blockchain, where anybody can join the network, the blockchain, and contribute to like adding blocks, updating blocks, verifying transactions. And if you have enough computational power available with you, you can also be a miner on the network, be it blockchain or Ethereum. Now, there are certain advantages associated with public networks. First advantage is there is full decentralization. The reason we are saying that there is full decentralization is because every node has an equal standing in the network. Okay. Anyone can participate in the network. There will be like hundreds of millions of users on the network. Next is full transparency. Now, the reason we are saying that there is full transparency on the network is because since your blockchain is public, it is open to all the data that is available on the blockchain can be verified by millions of users of that blockchain. So, in a sense, it also makes your data more secure when you have full transparency and full decentralization. And it goes without saying that if you have full transparency and decentralization, you will have a larger number of miners on your network, which will mine your transactions, making it immutable. Because if you have larger number of nodes in your system, larger number of transactions are being generated, then there will be more number of blocks, and higher like the like higher you go in a blockchain, greater is the chance of your transaction being immutable. Okay. So immutability is also a very important factor, a very, like you can say, a feature of a public blockchain network. And full user empowerment, because the user is in control. Each of the user has a equal standing and full, you can say, right in a blockchain network. If I am a miner in the network, you can also be a miner. There is no one single person controlling the blockchain. If I want to validate transaction, I can validate transaction. If you can validate transaction, if you want to. So public blockchain gives full user empowerment, meaning that it allows anyone to be part of the network to verify and validate transactions. And if you have enough computation power, you can also be a miner and add blocks to the blockchain. Next is a private blockchain. There is higher efficiency because since you have lesser number of nodes in your network, the rates in which the blocks can be mined and added to the blockchain increases. There is full privacy, there is stability because since you are controlling the blockchain, there is a lesser chance that a fork will exist on your system. And it is used for empowering enterprises. But the biggest disadvantage associated with private blockchains is that it is not a fully decentralized system. It is not public in nature, it is being controlled by one organization. So if there is an org which is controlled, has its own blockchain, then it is not a pure decentralized network. It is a, like you can call, a hybrid or a semi decentralized network, where the the entry to the blockchain is controlled by that specific organization that has implemented the blockchain. So this is the public and the private blockchains. We'll stop here. In the next class onwards, we'll study what the use cases of Ethereum can be, what is the future potential of Ethereum, and then we will move on to Hyperledger Fabric and complete that. So we'll stop here. If you have any questions, please do ask. Otherwise, you can drop your enrollment numbers in the in-call messages and we can end the class. Also, the makeup has been scheduled for 20th, which is Friday, and I think the list has already been released by Sir. So you have your blockchain test 3 makeup, I think, on Friday, sorry, Saturday, which is 20th of November.